Welcome to Felix Lore. Hello, it's me, Felix. These are some things about me. This isn't going to be as interesting as Morgan's. We asked folks on Instagram if they had any questions for me since Morgan had a very well-received lore video. So these are the things that y'all were curious about. I've got them in sections, so let's go. Let's get started. The first section is trans. Questions about me being trans. People have a lot of questions about being trans in general, and I think, I don't know, I sometimes have a lot of energy to answer them, and I sometimes have less, and I'm in this very weird moment in my social transition where the people who I'm meeting who are new in my life are making incorrect assumptions about me, which is not, I don't care. That's totally fine. But it is just really funny because I'm clearly being perceived as masculine or a man or possibly a gay man. One of the first questions that I got like for this question and answer thing was like, how did you come out to Morgan? Which I thought was really funny because Morgan, I have identified the same way the whole time that Morgan has known me, but my gender presentation has changed a lot. So I am non-binary. I guess I identified as bisexual when Morgan and I met, and I'm definitely a lesbian. I think that now, with how long I've been on testosterone and after getting top surgery and changing my name to Felix, people just assume that I'm a trans man, and I do not mind that assumption at all, but it isn't the case. I use primarily they pronouns, and he pronouns are like genuinely, I feel, neutral to positively about. Just don't use she, her pronouns for me because that's not the vibe. Sorry. Okay, let's do the questions. How did you make the decision to start tea? Great question. I kind of didn't. I'd been thinking about it for a long time. I would say I never really made a concrete decision that I was gonna start tea and then never stop being on tea. I was many years into having a very high-pitched Minnie Mouse voice and a couple of years into using they, them pronouns. And I just was like, maybe this'll be fine. The side effects of testosterone that I felt positively about were my voice changing and my breasts becoming smaller and the fat redistribution that happens in your face and your body, because you become less curvaceous-y and more stocky, I guess is maybe the right word. Your muscle is different, and I felt neutral about bottom growth and really mostly that. And then the only thing I really felt negatively about was obviously my skin being so much worse. And I felt neutral about hair growth also. And then negative about hair loss, which has just started. I am on finasteride now, and my dad is bald, and both of my brothers are bald, and one of them is on testosterone and one of them is not on testosterone, because he's cisgender, and he started balding when he was 17. So, and everybody says it's not your dad that you know for sure is the reason that you're going to be bald. You should look at your mom's dad. But I have two brothers, so one of which is on testosterone and is also on finasteride, so that feels more relevant to me. So what happened was I made an appointment at Planned Parenthood, and I was like, hey, I would like to be on testosterone, I think. I don't know. Can I do that? Can I just be on low-dose tea and see how I feel and stop? And something that's relevant is that I live in the state of Oregon where it's not particularly difficult to get access to gender-affirming care compared to other states. So I didn't need a letter from a therapist or any kind of anything. They just were like, sure, these are the negative side effects. These are the other side effects. If you can stop at any time, you don't have to keep taking it. And I was like, all right, cool. The thing about being on hormones is that you most likely will need to be on hormones your whole life. If you, for instance, are on testosterone and then you get a hysterectomy and you get both your ovaries removed, you'll need to be on some form of hormone therapy, similarly to how older women get, it was really common to get hysterectomies, and then they would need to be on medication, hormone medication, to not just feel like trash. So I don't know. I like being on testosterone. I like it way more than I thought that I might. There was never a time where I was like, God, I really, like, I feel like it would fix all of my problems to be on testosterone. I just was like, I wonder what that would look like for me. Maybe that would be better. And I feel like it's a lot better. I feel great. One of the weird things about being on testosterone is that you don't have cellulite in the same way, or like at all. Like cellulite is like an estrogen progesterone like body feature. And so I do have chunk, but it doesn't, like, the fat doesn't like conglomerate, doesn't that's not the right word at all, but it doesn't like make the same shape. So I used to have a lot of cellulite in my legs and I don't anymore, which is really weird, even though my legs are like chunkier than they were even at that time, which is very strange. How did you choose the name Felix? Great question. I was working at Epcot, and there was a little old lady who was leaving, and she misread my name tag. And I think in retrospect, I think what she said was Phoenix, because my name that I had on my name tag was Phoebe, which is Phoe, which is like the same like first letters of Phoenix. And she was like, always a pleasure seeing you, Felix, which was very funny because I had never seen her before in my life. And that's not what my name tag said. And so that's a funny story that I've told for a really long time. And I was like, kind of a slay though, Felix, kind of cute, kind of dig it. How did you know your name was right when you chose it? I didn't. And also I kind of still don't. I think it fits me a lot better than Phoebe did. I think I feel maybe like, I don't know, maybe it's a misconception that some trans people, it's definitely a misconception that all trans people feel so comfortable with like a big social change or a big transition choice before they decide to do it. I just thought like this genuinely with my name being Phoebe, I didn't hate it. It just got to a point where it was confusing for people. So like I had an optometrist appointment, and they were like, Phoebe, and we're clearly looking for a young woman whose name was Phoebe, and then they got me. So, and then really the reason that I even had like a fire under my butt to change my name is because I wanted to not have the name Phoebe on my baby's birth certificate. That was important to me. And I didn't want to have to change it after the fact and then change something that had been on his birth certificate. Especially with him also being like known donor conceived, it just seemed like it would be so much easier for us to just have that taken care of first. So I feel like it's a great name, Felix. I think it's a cool name. I like it. I think it's fun that there's an X in it. I don't know if it's like the perfect name. I don't know if I would ever feel like after having gone by a name that fit me for a period of time but really doesn't fit me anymore for like almost 30 years of my life, if there was ever going to be a name that I was going to pick that was going to be like, yeah, that's it. Yeah, but it's, I mean, I would say I feel positively about it, but I didn't know that it was like the right name when I picked it. Binder recommendations for large-chested folks. Great question. Oh, For Them? For Them is the one that I used a lot of. They had like a basic binder that was incredible, super comfortable. You really want to go off of their actual like binder sizing chart that they have, and they're very helpful. They have like really great customer service. You can like reach out to them if you have questions or if you're like in between sizes or like something else. One caveat to that is that I had been on testosterone for a period of time before I started like actually wearing binders, so my breast tissue was a lot less dense. So if you have incredibly dense breast tissue, they might not be the perfect binder for you. That being said, I do think they're going to be like the most like compressy. Like I think that might be the binder that's going to work better, best. I don't know. I have no idea. They had another one. It's like them like Max or something is what it was called. Like it's like their more intensive binder. That one you really are only supposed to wear for like 4 to 6 hours at a time, I think, which is the rule with most binders. That's not uncommon, but it was like very compressing. Super great. I wore that to like events, like my cousin's wedding. That's what I was wearing. I have always gotten migraines typically from my like neck muscles and things being like, I probably really badly need to just get a massage and also go to physical therapy. It's not something I'm pursuing right now because there's so many things happening in the world. But so there was a lot of different binders, like just like hurt, like, and would give me a migraine if I wore them for basically any amount of time. So I would either just like not go anywhere or wear like a sports bra. The Tomboy X sports bras, I don't remember what they called it. It's not like a compression bra, but it's like a sports bra that they have that I had in like this really pretty olive green color. That was great. Loved that one when I had boobs. Those are my two favorites for sure. But the Tomboy X one, not as good for like full compression, look as flat as possible. Better for like everyday wear, not hating yourself quite as much, but still being able to function as a comfortable person in society. Top surgery must-haves. Pillows. Pillows to protect your body. They sell, I don't know if there's a place you can get it other than Amazon. Sound off in the chat if you know of one. It's like a mastectomy pillow. So it's basically, and you could just make this, but it was like snaps and like this front pillow piece and then these side pillows and then pockets. And I said the pockets were way more crucial than I thought that they would be. There's not a non-graphic way I can explain this. And I'm not talking about anything that actually physically happened, just what it felt like. So skip to this timestamp if you don't want to hear me be kind of gross about top surgery. Having a mastectomy pillow really helped me feel like my lungs weren't exposed. It's so weird, so much weirder than you can possibly imagine to go from like having tissue here in the way of it, particularly if you're large chested, to like not. And then also because the like chest skin, they in the process of top surgery, it's stretched, right, for them to get it where it needs to be and to like sew you up and whatnot. I guess that is kind of really graphic. It just, you feel weird, like it's like parting your hair in a new part actually, but it's your body. It's like if you got a haircut and then you tried to part your hair on the opposite side. And it's just so strange and really, really not comfortable. So worth it. Unbelievably well worth it, even though I didn't get a hold of my baby for that period of time, which was very hard to do. But yeah, just really, really, really strange feeling. So the mastectomy pillow helped feel like there was something between my body and like the rest of the world. And then also the like side pillow cushiony part. I didn't realize how much my armpits were going to be sore. In terms of graphic things, that's where like when you get drains, that's where like the drains go, is they come like up and over. So I had a lot of discomfort like here. It was like the most painful part, because also you're like super numb down here for like a really long time. So it was up here that was uncomfy, and having like pillow here and here was like so good. And then yeah, also the like prop you up a little bit pillows so I could like get in and out of bed more easily. Those were great. Like any like angled, any kind of those kinds of pillows, those are great. That you probably get those on Facebook Marketplace. For the mastectomy pillow, you should look on your like Buy Nothing group perhaps, or if you have a friend who's had top surgery, they probably got one. They're like $30, which is stupid because they're like they're not great quality. I did emetophobia, warning for this next sentence I'm about to say. I did like throw up on mine and then run it through the wash and it was fine. So not terrible quality for like $30 or whatever it was. Yeah, it was great. It was very helpful to have, particularly the pockets, to be able to reach the things that you need while not really being able to move your arms as much as you would think. How much did top surgery cost, and did insurance help at all? I am on Oregon Health Plan, which is Medicaid in Oregon. Gender affirming procedures and such are current for adults are currently covered under Medicaid in Oregon. That may be something that changes fairly quickly, which is really stressful. But for me personally, I didn't have to pay anything for top surgery at all, which is great. And something that everyone should have access to. And I got a couple of responses from folks when I say that on like the wider internet. of people being like, I don't think that like people on their taxes should be paying for your gender affirming care. That's exhausting to me, because if we were just taxing the rich, then everyone could have free healthcare and we wouldn't really even have to worry about it. So to me that that feels like a demonization of trans people for like no reason, because that should be a non-issue. Also, I also pay taxes. Also, I truly believe that everyone should have free healthcare, and gender affirming care is life-saving healthcare. So that is something, you know, that feels relevant to me. How long after top surgery until you felt normal? So long. I cannot give you a good number. How long has it been? It was in September, and right now it is May. Maybe like 4 months-ish. The first part and having drains in that like 12 days was like the worst. And I was also so exhausted and so tired. I definitely feel normal now. It's something that changed subtly. The level of not normal that I was feeling changed so subtly over time that it snuck up on me. And then I was like, oh wow, we're just here and this is just what it's like now, which is very cool. But it's a lot to get used to. It took a long time, especially in the first couple of months, for me to be able to like look at myself in the mirror and not feel like I was gonna pass out, because it's such a big change. And I feel so positively about it. Top surgery is one of the best things that I have ever done for myself. I'm so glad that I pursued it. Yeah, I'm so glad I don't have boobs anymore. It was awful to have them. It is a little bit funny to talk about it because I feel like most of the positives are like just like things that are neutral now. So people are like, what's the best part about not having boobs? And it's like, oh, all of it. Not worrying what kind of shirts I'm wearing, not having headaches all the time because I was wearing binders, not feeling like I want to curl up and die anytime I have to like go to the grocery store and feel them like moving around, like literally all of it. Like every aspect of living is more positive now that I do not have breasts. Yeah, and I got very, very sick of having them. And I wasn't feeling that way the whole time that I had boobs. When I originally started pursuing top surgery like 4 years ago, I was like, oh, maybe like they're like fine, but I think I'd rather not have them. Like I feel kind of neutral about them, but I think it would be better if they weren't here. And then it became not that as much. It became I was sick of having them. So no nipple situation. What's the plan? I don't have one currently. That's how I do a lot of things, clearly, in being transgender. I think it's really fun that I can put googly eyes there or write the word nipples or use temporary tattoos or like whatever. As I said earlier, I don't identify as a trans man. I am a non-binary person, or like a transmasculine person or whatever. So I don't really care that they're not there. I like that there's kind of like a genderless, like funky little vibe to not having nipples, and the options that are there for me currently not having anything. My intention was never to go into top surgery to try to have like a cis male passing chest. So I don't know. I don't have any like huge plans to get like cuckoo bananas tattoos right now. I think this is a really good canvas for potential tattoos in the future. And maybe at some point I will feel really inspired and want to do that. But right now I'm just kind of enjoying what I've got going on. I think that that's fine. I will probably, when going to places that are like more conservative and being shirtless, I'll probably get those little like nipple sticker pasty things that people have, or like the temporary tattoos or like whatever. That way I just don't have to worry about it. But I don't have any plan to like get the hyper realistic nipple tattoos. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll be really into that and be stoked about it, but that's not something I want to do right now. Did you keep your middle name or change/drop it? Great question. My name previously was Phoebe Jo May. My mom always says that the Joe is from Joe versus the Volcano. It's really funny because my first name was very feminine and my middle name was kind of like gender neutrally. And then my little brother, who changed their full name, so I won't tell you what their dead name was, but they had a gender neutral first name, very feminine middle name. Anyway, I kept Joe, and I kept it spelled J-O, so it's Felix Jo May is my name now. And I think it's fun that it's so few letters altogether. What was it like to choose the language dad and husband? And I feel like I talk about this every once in a while, so I don't know if this is going to be contradictory to anything I've said in the past, but this is how I feel about it now. I've never been Morgan's wife. Never. That was never going to be me. Morgan really loves being a wife, which is great. I think of a husband as like a person who could have a wife. Does that make sense? So I don't necessarily feel like husband needs to have gender associated with it. And I just thought husband was fun. Like, it just felt like a cute little kind of like, the vibe was correct for the opposite of a wife. And that is, I am definitely the husband and Morgan is definitely the wife. So to me, it feels like, at the time especially, when I had a very high-pitched little Minnie Mouse voice and was presenting much more femininely and wearing a lot of crop tops, was like, yeah, I'm the husband. Cute. It felt gender subversive to be doing that. And also more aligned with what kind of energy I wanted to be bringing to my gender in the future, but wasn't at a place to really be presenting that way at that time. So yeah, I've always been Morgan's husband. Spouse felt really cold to me. I know some people really like spouse. That's great. It just didn't feel right to me. I don't think there's anything wrong with going by spouse or by being non-binary and assigned female at birth and going by wife. Like, it doesn't, there's so many different kinds of trans people with so many different feelings and thoughts and vibes about their gender, and that's great. This is just my personal experience. And then dad, I have always said that I would just have my baby call me whatever, like, weird version of my name. So like teehee was something that we said for a really long time, is what the baby would call me. And I changed my mind about that. I don't think there's anything wrong with going by, again, like a fun, creative parent name. I just kind of like the more classic dad. I also had been, like, Stream called me dad for, like, years. Yeah, I don't know. I just like it. It just felt right to me. I don't know. It was, Morgan had teased me about it and was been like, I'm gonna make the baby call you dad. And I think that was like funny, but I think it also kind of gave me like the permission, even though I had, like size F boobs and was wearing crop tops and whatever. Do you know what I mean? That like I could go by dad if I wanted to. And now that we're here, it's honestly just kind of like a perk that it's like it will in general make things easier for our family in terms of us like passing as like a classic nuclear family, even though it's not the case, and it's not something that I'm gonna try to get the baby to lie to people about or be secretive about or like whatever, but just like if you see us grocery shopping, do you know what I mean? If I throw on a pair of cargo shorts and I'm dad and Morgan's mom, it's more simple. And like in Oregon, that's not even something we worry about. But with this current political state of everything, and then also like traveling other places, it's like it's nice. It's nice to have that level of safety as well, which is not something that everybody gets to have, which isn't fair. Did your identity impact the way you and Morgan identify sexuality-wise? No, because it's been basically the same the whole time, except for me being like, I think I'm attracted to men, and then me being like, I'm not attracted to men. So previously I was identifying as bisexual, and then now I identify as a lesbian. Lesbian means a lot of different things. Most folks who are lesbians have some kind of relationship with their gender in a creative way, because sort of like a core tenet of most people's lesbianism is like decentering men in your life and being like, oh, men are irrelevant to a lot of things about what's going on with me. And there is a lot of centering of men in like heterosexual young woman culture. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but like societally, it's weird. It's kind of like cuckoo bananas for your brain to go from like, I'm doing this to be attractive to men, to being like, oh, I literally don't have to do that at all. And it's not even something you think about, even if you have liberal parents, even if you have, grew up in a blue state. Like, there's just, it's the patriarchy, it's the whole thing. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? So, so being a lesbian means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. There are certainly transphobes, and we call them trans exclusionary radical feminists, and that's not a cool thing to be, who are lesbians. That exists. The trans inclusive way to talk about lesbianism is to say that being a lesbian is anyone who is attracted to non-men. And some people laugh at like the phrase non-men, but I do feel like that's an important caveat. Because like I'm not a man and I'm not attracted to men. Then that's really it. That's really it. But there's a lot of different like flavors of non-man, and all of those folks are attractive to me. And also like butch lesbianism, and just lesbianism in general. Like there's been all kinds of gender expression. Anyway, and you can be a butch lesbian and be a woman. That's great. Nobody's telling you can't do that. But I am butch and a lesbian and transmasculine, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Really, God, I'm so sorry, but it's like, language is imperfect, and so I don't think there's any reason to tell someone that they shouldn't identify as something or that they can't identify as something, because one, it doesn't matter at all to you, and if someone is able to find community with a group of people, that's great. I don't think like the gatekeeping of sexualities is productive. Morgan has always been bisexual, so that hasn't changed anything. I think that people called us when we first got on the internet like the Texas Roadhouse lesbians. Morgan's never identified as a lesbian. She's very into men. Good for her. Go off. Can't relate. We've always joked that Morgan's type is just like folks who are kind of gender fruity. Morgan's high school sweetheart, who's one of our very dear friends currently, is a trans woman, but she obviously was just like very fruity in high school. But anyway, cute. So my identity has not impacted how Morgan and I identify sexuality wise. The only caveat to that I will say is that, I mean, I guess it's not even a caveat, it's just a continuation of that, but occasionally people would be like, oh, you're a trans man and your wife is a cis woman. Does that mean that you guys are just straight? And I'm not a trans man, and that's okay. I don't mind. Welcome to trans class. There are the different sections of things that you can be. So there is sex, which is your biological assigned at birth, whatever, has to do with your genital presentation and your chromosomes, and it's all really complicated, and we're not going to get into that. Some people like to say that there are only two genders because there are only two sexes. That doesn't make any sense, because there are different chromosome options, there are different genital presentation options that people are born with. There folks who are intersex, they can have different like hormone levels. All of those things are like fine and good and great. And it's like 1 to 2% of the population is intersex. So that is the same amount of redheads. So think about how often you see redheads. You certainly know intersex people. And it's I mean, it's fine, it's great, it's whatever. But it's like just like very definitive proof that language is imperfect, and so generally people are either male or female. Great, biologically, and that is relevant for some like health things and for other stuff, but that is something. Then there is your gender identity, which is how you personally identify with gender. Gender is a social construct in the same way that like a frog does not know that it is Wednesday. A frog can't identify as transmasculine because they don't have language, and so it's not relevant. And so because it's language, it's a social construct. It's like something that we've decided as a society. There are men and there are women, and then there are other folks, and that's great. Like, that's fine. Presentation is the other thing. That is like how you look and what you wear and what you do and how you talk. That's like how you present yourself. And it includes all kinds of things, and you can present any way and also identify as any gender, and that like really throws some people off. But I think like a really great example that is easy for people to understand how those things could be like could not line up is like drag queens. So like Trixie Mattel, obviously when she's being Trixie, she uses she her pronouns, but like also that man's name is Brian and he's a man, and even though sometimes he has a gender presentation that is much more feminine presenting, when he's being Trixie, like that, it's like he's still, that doesn't, just because there's a gender presentation option there, that doesn't mean, you know what I mean? And also, like, men should be able to wear skirts. Why are we assuming that skirts are always, like, only for the girls? You know what I mean? Let them have an option, right? All that. Presentation, all of those things. Then there's how people perceive you. So if we're, like, going through my, like, line of stuff, right? I assigned female at birth. Great. As far as we know, I have XX chromosomes. Slay. The next one is gender identity. I identify as a transmasculine person, a non-binary person, a trans person, a queer person. Any of those are comfortable or fine. I don't expect you to know those. You don't have to say that. That's okay. Whatever. But that's the vibe. And then gender presentation, I would say I would just wear clothes that are comfortable and typically, like, lean a little bit more masculine, but also sometimes are not so much. I mean, you know, it's what, like, clothes have no gender. We assign gender to them, though, right? So, like, I'm wearing purple shorts right now, but they're men's purple shorts, you know, like, whatever. Generally, I'm trying to present in a masculine-leaning way. And then for how people perceive me, recently especially, it's, like, as a guy. Like, very, like, as a man, which is fine. So cis people are like, oh, that's, like, some limp-wristed young man. And then strangers on the internet who are part of queer circles are like, yes, a trans man. Not the case. Earlier on in mine and Morgan's relationship, I didn't look the way that I look now. And so now people have a tendency to be like, oh, are you guys are straight now. And we're just not. Functionally, we're not straight in many different ways. I don't think that it's, like, a disease to be straight or anything, but it's just not accurate to our relationship or our experience. And I think it's just, like, kind of funny when people are like, no, but you're straight. If you want to say straight passing, that's fine. We've been together for, oh my God, how do I do math? 26, 8, 5, like 7 years? Almost 8? 7.5 years. And the majority of that time, we have experienced looking very gay in public and some of the homophobia and negative attention that comes with that. So maybe when I have looked like this and more so like a boy for, like, 10 years, maybe I won't feel that way as much. But I think our roots are always going to be queer. Does that make sense? God. Sorry, I never shut up. What was decentering men like for you? We'll love this question. What an interesting question. Fine. I don't know if it was something that I did consciously, and I think it's something that people, the queer girlies, the queer women, the queer non-men talk about, and doing very intentionally. And I am now a person who, yeah, like, I don't care about some random man's opinion of me. That doesn't matter to me. But now I'm being seen as a man. And also I have a baby who is assigned male at birth, which is bananas. So I think really just kind of, like, I don't know. It's a really funny place to be. Because I think previously I was saying a lot of things like, yeah, hate men. Dump him. And I feel that way a lot of the time, but it is something that I am really, really cautious about now with these little tiny ears around me, because I do not want, I have no idea. My baby, he doesn't have a gender right now. He has an assigned sex. Which will most likely be his gender statistically, but, like, we don't know. Like, we don't really have any idea. So if my baby statistically is most likely to be a cishet man, and if he is, I want him to feel, like, supported and cared for and loved, and not like we hate cishet men. And I don't hate them. I know some really lovely ones. I think that part of a deeper societal issue we have right now is, like, little boys not being supported and being treated so fundamentally different from little girls, what people see as little girls, that they are not able to, like, express their feelings and, like, other things. And so they bottle them up, and they're told that, like, it's fine and masculine if you're, like, violent and angry and, like, other things, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So, as someone who has, like, decentered men and was previously like, yeah, hate men, now it's just, I'm just very trying to be as locked in as I can be to the best, most supportive way that I can make sure that my sweet baby does not have the same experience growing up that the people who make me feel sick to my stomach when I hear them speak have had. Does that make sense? I've never more in my life. You guys remember when that girlie went viral? I don't even remember who she was talking about. I don't think it was Elon Musk. Was it Putin? I think it might have been Vladimir Putin. It was like this poem that she'd written where she was like, I could have mothered him. I don't relate to her. I want to be really clear. I do not relate to her. But I think that watching my baby wear all kinds of clothes and be supported in playing with all kinds of toys and all kinds of music and being told that he is beautiful and also that he is strong and also that he is, I think that there is like this level of like deep, profound sadness that I feel for terrible men who they certainly did not have that support growing up. And I think that if they had that, then things might have been different. I've got no idea. So, and please don't Coolsville sucks me about that. But I think you get it. If you don't get it, that's also okay. Maybe, yeah. I don't know anything. I'm just some idiot people decided to watch on the internet, and I can't really imagine why still. So take it with a grain of salt. Did you freeze any eggs before starting your transition? Do you plan to use them if yes? This is a fascinating question to me. This person, if you are in the comments, tell me, are you asking as someone who like knows about fertility things, or are you asking as someone who doesn't know about fertility things, or as someone who's like a very young trans person? I'm so curious your angle for asking this. If you're just nosy, that's okay. It is so expensive to freeze your eggs. It is very similarly priced to just fully doing IVF. So on like the low end, like $15,000, and on the higher end, like $40,000. So no, God no, there's not any possible way that I could have done that. When Morgan and I first started planning our trying to conceive journey, we were looking into a lot of different options. We had a couple of different people who we were considering using as known donors, because we're very lucky to have some incredible men in our lives who are just really lovely and also non-paternal, not really interested in being parents, but if they were, wouldn't be freaked out by the idea of their kids being half-siblings with our kids, etc., etc. Really, really lovely open conversations and relationships with like, it's really just like two guys basically were kind of like our main like thought. Great to know their medical history, thought that either of those could function as like really lovely fun uncles. We picked one essentially for location reasons, because the other one didn't live close to us. But if we had stayed living in Florida, then he may have been the donor that we chose easily, because he's great. Yeah, and so it is really, really important to both of us that our children, hoping and dreaming to have two, we'll see, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's the hope, that they would both have the same relationship with their donor. If we had gone with the other donor, it would have been possible for us to use Morgan's egg, and then his sperm, and then my egg and his sperm, if we'd gone with that other donor. Something that's also relevant is it's just like you have to, so with us using Morgan's egg, we were just doing at-home inseminations with like the Mosey Baby syringe. So there's not it's not tens of thousands of dollars to do that. Whereas if we were going to use my egg, I have no intention of becoming pregnant under any circumstances. So the removal of my egg and the putting it in Morgan with the embryo created with somebody else's sperm, all of that, so expensive. So we went with the most cost-effective first. And also, the sperm donor that we chose is someone who would not be a good match with my egg for some reasons that aren't really relevant for us to get into. And if you know who our donor is, if you've surmised through other things, that I don't care, that's fine. We just don't want to like have it, it's fine. It's fine, but it's not something that we talk about a whole lot or want to kind of like make content about that specific aspect of it, because it just like is weird. But the other thing that is relevant is that because we have a known donor, like the whole thing is that like he is very present in our baby's life in terms of like them like hanging out every once in a while, like being able to have conversations, like he the baby knows that he is the donor. It's like this cool relationship that our baby gets to have with this person who helped us create a family, which is great. So it's not that he is vaguely anonymous to the internet, because that's I don't want to, that's not, he didn't sign up to be doing this. He signed up to be helping with that. So yeah, but it's not something we're going to talk about a lot. So it's important that our kiddos have the same relationship with their donor as the other kiddo does. Does that make sense? So like, I don't think it would be fair to our kids and our family, and I don't know what anyone else has done, and whatever you do is fine, for us to, if for some reason it was just as cost effective for us to use my egg and then to use some other sperm donor. So then there's one kid who can like have their sperm donor come to like, you know, their baseball games every once in a while, and then one who like only gets to see their sperm donor like twice a year or something, probably less than that even. And we didn't think that that would be cool. So we did not freeze my eggs. No intention of my eggs being used for any purpose at all. They're just going to shrivel up and die in there. Yeah, I think if Morgan had an egg quantity issue, it's possible that we would have made the decision to go the other donor and use my egg, because if we had already been going to do IVF and somehow got the money to do that. There's just all of these hypotheticals, right? Like, I don't know, but I think that at this point, when we have one child, unless there was some really like earth-shattering, unless our donor literally passed away, I don't think that we would use a different donor. And so because of that, we can't use my eggs. And also, it doesn't matter. Have you ever wanted to be pregnant? No. That's a hard no from me. That is, no, do not want to do that. There's nothing wrong with being trans and being pregnant. Again, I'm just speaking to my own experience. There are many transmasculine folks who become pregnant. There are many trans men who become pregnant. There are all kinds of people who have uteruses and are like, I'm going to go ahead and use this. Me, not so much. This is a barren wasteland, and it will continue to stay that way until it's ripped out at some point. Yeah, no. Also, Morgan really always wanted to be pregnant, has always wanted to be pregnant. So there was a weird moment in our fertility journey when people, their favorite question to ask was like, oh, if Morgan can't get pregnant, would you take one for the team and become pregnant for Morgan? And no, absolutely not. That would have like not destroyed our relationship. We just would never get into that situation, because it would not be good, because I would hate it and want to die. And Morgan would be like really resentful because she would desperately want to become pregnant. So absolutely not. There was a very short period of time in my life where I was an adult who was engaging in activities that could have potentially gotten me pregnant. I never had like a pregnancy scare or anything, but I remember like one time being like, oh my God, like, what if? And being like, not sure what I would do under those circumstances. We're a very pro-choice house, just to be clear. I've always said that if anybody needed to like get something dealt with in terms of a pregnancy scare, I'm happy to go and hold their hand and do whatever. Yeah, I have always wanted to be a parent, so I think that there was a tiny part of me when that was maybe a thought in my head that I was like, perhaps this is the moment. But again, it literally wasn't even a pregnancy scare. I just have anxiety, but I've never wanted to be pregnant. Anything you want to share about your experience as the non-birthing parent? Yeah, no. It is weird. It is weird, but also great. I think that I had some concerns about, like, concerns is not really quite the right phrase, but there's some people have more big feelings about not being the birthing parent when they are someone who has a uterus, and other people don't. I've never wanted to be pregnant, so there was no part of me that like wanted to be experiencing what Morgan was experiencing, so I think we're very well suited to each other for that reason. I also, you know, have seen some folks on the internet be like, yeah, it's bananas, like at the OBGYN, they're really only talking to the pregnant person, they don't like talk to you. And And I have a tendency to be like, yeah, that's the patient. That's the patient and the smaller patient. So don't really know why we were expecting the OBGYN to talk to you. Like, you don't have a mucus plug, you know, like that kind of thing. And perhaps I've misunderstood what other people were saying, but I've always thought that was interesting. Yeah, I had a little bit of a fear that because I was not the birthing parent, the carrying parent, that I am not technically genetically, I'm not a genetic contributor to our kid, that I was gonna like have some feelings about it, or that it would be weird, or that maybe I wouldn't like bond with him as quickly as Morgan, or that I would have I don't know, like bigger feelings about it. And that hasn't been my experience at all. He's great. I'm obsessed with him. He's obsessed with me. It works good. Yeah, I think there was this tiny bit of a concern that like maybe he would like have like a closer connection with our sperm donor than with me. I don't think that that's the case. I'm excited for them to have a really special relationship. I thought maybe I might feel jealous of our donor. I don't. That's not something I was able to contribute. I did get Morgan pregnant, which is kind of fun, with the syringe. So it's also like, you know, I did need to be there for that to happen. Yeah, I don't know. Not that there's anything wrong with having any of those feelings. I just think it's really important that if those feelings do come up, that you go to therapy as opposed to like putting that on your kid. Like that is always the thought that I've had, is that if something like that was to feel stressful and necessary, then that's what we would do. I would just, you know, and it might be a little bit harder, but there's all different kinds of ways that families are made. And so, yeah, I don't know. I really like being the non-birthing parent. I did not want to give birth, did not want to be pregnant. Our baby is great. I don't mind not being one of his genetic contributors. I think also that it's like once you get enough, there's like a level of like baby spit up that like seeps into your skin. Like, it doesn't feel like it matters to me, at least. It's like, yeah, you know, that's my baby. And I don't know. How to survive fertility grief. Distract yourself as much as possible, and also therapy separately from that. It's not productive to distract yourself so much the whole time so that you never have the feelings. You do have to, unfortunately, feel the feelings to get through them and process them. If therapy's accessible to you, seek that out. It's important. Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard. And it's hard for different reasons, like depending on if you've like experienced a loss, which is so hard, or if it's just the grief of like trying so hard for this future that you don't know if it's ever going to come. So hard. As someone who's come out on the other side of it, I think that to me it never felt helpful when people were like, you know, time heals wounds and like all of that nonsense, or like, you know, the timing is gonna be perfect when it does happen. Like, you're not even gonna regret like, oh, it could have been at this time and this could have happened, which is how like we felt like every cycle. It wasn't helpful to hear that information, and yet like those things are still true. And I think it could possibly have brought me comfort to hear someone say, it sucks to hear these things in the moment, but they are true, and it really will feel better. Yeah, I don't know. You're so brave. Anyone who's doing fertility stuff right now, you're so brave. So brave. It is so hard, and it's so specifically hard, and it's just really unlike any other kind of grief. It's really specific. So you're a rock star, and I'm sorry. Have y'all ever thought about adoption? I included this with fertility because this is the context that we are asked about adoption, or were asked about adoption, was always in the context of fertility. I have some really big feelings about this. It is so important, if you have any intention of adopting, to seek out adoptee voices, folks who've been adopted, and it is so important to know that like no matter what, adoption is trauma, because someone at some age, whether that was really tiny or slightly less tiny, had some level of huge shift in their care, and that causes trauma for kids, and then also for babies, and also for adults. So adoption, privatized adoption, is a whole thing. So many flaws there. I don't think that like adoption is evil. I do think that there is a misconception that there are like thousands and thousands and thousands of babies who are just waiting to be adopted and cared for by somebody. And if we could just get those babies adopted, then there would be like no problems in the world. When actually what there is thousands of children, toddlers and children who are like up for adoption is really not the right, but like who are like in like the foster care system, who need support and need to be cared for, and need stable homes. And it's also this weird eco-fascist, like, people shouldn't be making babies when you could just be adopting the babies that are already available. Weird way of talking about babies as if they are like a good, like a commodity, like, oh, we'll just import these babies instead of creating them domestically. Weird. So weird. So weird. And also not how it works. The baby supply and demand like chain, they're very offset. So many people want babies, so many people want to adopt, so many people are trying to have babies, and then there are not that many folks, not nearly as many folks who are, I don't know if giving up is like the correct, surrendering, I'm sorry, I don't know what the verbiage is there, but not as many birth parents and adoptees and I think the other thing is that, like, if you listen to birth parents' perspectives, so many of those folks, the reason that they put their child up for adoption is because they had a lack of resources or a lack of accessibility to care or a lack of knowledge, or they were in a dangerous position. It is very, 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 very uncommon for someone to be like, I don't want to be a parent, but I'm going to go ahead and like carry out this pregnancy and then have someone else. Like, kind of like the Juno of it all, not common. Not common. It's often folks who, if money and time and societal structure and support were no problem, then they would be parents. And then these, like, adoption agencies make tens of thousands of dollars off of selling babies. So it's a lot. There was a period of time in my life where I thought that maybe I would be a foster parent. I could still potentially see myself doing that. I think in the very, very, very distant future. Yeah, and there was a time in my life where I thought maybe I will potentially foster and potentially adopt like kiddos, like 8-year-olds, as opposed to, and like help those like kids get, because it's I can't imagine the level of trauma, but anyway. But people really, especially folks who don't know anything about adoption and know very little about fertility, they sort of like to tout adoption as this, like, here is something that will fix all your problems. And then people who are well-meaning but uninformed then become adoptive parents, and they have not healed any of their fertility trauma. And also, often those are white folks who are adopting a non-white child. So there's like kind of like a savior complex aspect that is involved in that. And then also those folks are less likely to be like really invested in that kid's culture. And then that kid is having obviously a very different social experience than their white parents. And again, I'm not saying that all adoption is evil, all adoption is bad, no one should ever adopt. It's just, it is a super complicated issue. And it's not something that should be associated with being like a fertility fix or like a how to build your family in a way that's going to be better. Yeah, it's strange to me. I don't think this, to be clear, I don't think this person who is asking this question was saying it in that context. I think they were genuinely just asking, is that something y'all have thought about? But yeah, it's just, people are really uninformed about adoption, and they really like to talk about it as if it's something you just do. It just fixes it. And then it's like, no, not really. Oh, dad questions. Questions about being a dad. Any tips on family being weird about me wanting to dress my baby boy in femme clothes? Our baby wears all kinds of clothes. All kinds of clothes. We don't do a lot of like skirts and dresses, just because I can't imagine putting any baby in skirts and dresses, just because they have to have pants on anyway, so it just seems like an extra bunch of fabric. But there's just so many more girl clothes, air quote, than there are boy clothes, and all of the boy clothes have trucks on them or cop cars. So, not all of them. And there's a lot of dinosaurs too, but Yeah, I would say I'm curious what way they're being weird to you. We're lucky to have very chill family that we live with, and then like my immediate family in our home, and then my extended family who are a little bit more socially conservative. I don't think that they would ever bring it up to me. If they did, and if it was a question of like, oh, why is your baby wearing XYZ, I think I'd be like, why not? Or like, oh, it's because it's cute. Can boys not wear flowers? You hate flowers? His sperm donor wears flowers. Why wouldn't he wear flowers? And I think that also honestly really helps a lot, is that our heterosexual known donor who functions as an uncle for our baby is like very like wears like pink overalls and like obnoxious outfits and like necklaces and like it's he's very creative in his personal style, and so that's a great excuse that we have to be like, oh, you see how boys can wear whatever they want also? Who cares? I would say if you can just be confident about it, and then really anytime they give you a reason for like why something shouldn't be happening, or like why they potentially think something shouldn't be happening, just be like, why? Like really investigate where they're coming from. Because it's all based on silly things. So if it's like, oh, I don't think your kid should be wearing pink, like why? Why can't you wear pink? Well, pink is a girl color. Is pink a girl color? Do only girls wear pink? Is there like a law? Like, I don't think that has to be that way. Why can't we let him wear pink? Maybe he likes pink. Well, he doesn't have a choice, so it seems weird that you're putting him in an outfit that's like a girl outfit. Oh, I don't know. I think it would be weird if we didn't ever expose him to like all kinds of clothes so that he has the opportunity to choose in the future what kind of things he likes. If he's never worn a pink shirt and then at like age 2 or whatever, he has a pink shirt as an option, he's probably not going to choose a pink shirt, and I want him to be comfortable and confident in his choices and like know what he likes. So right now, while we're making decisions, yeah, there's going to be some pink shirts. That way he knows that pink shirts are fine. Well, I don't think you should wear pink shirts as a 2-year-old. I think that's going to make him gay. Would it be bad for him to be gay? Do you think that if you had worn a pink shirt, it would make you gay? It would have been really easy for you to be gay, huh? So you just put a pink shirt on you? That seems ridiculous to me. I don't know why you would say that, right? So like that. I would do that. Those are my tips. Did you/do you feel worried about bringing a child into this dumpster fire of a world right now? Morgan has a lot more stress about this than I do. I feel like something that is so human is that there is often a dumpster fire. And I don't know that it is productive for us to think of the time that we are in now as the most dumpster fiery. And maybe it is. Maybe that's the case. But I don't think it's productive to think about it that way. I felt such overwhelming stress and dread at the very beginning of quarantine for the COVID pandemic when we were living in Florida. And the BLM protests were going on in Portland. And I was like watching them like live streaming and just crying. And then Googling, like, what happened to the Romans as the Roman Empire was falling. Like, were the regular Romans fine? Like, did they still experience joy? Or were they just, what happened to them? And I think there's always joy to be found. I think that there is also always suffering. Love for there to be less suffering. I think we can work together as people to make that less common in general. But I also think that like I am here in this world experiencing dread, and I would still rather be here than not be here. And so I do not think that it is evil or wrong to bring a person into this world with the goal of them experiencing joy and love and happiness. And I think that when there are hard things going on, when there are bad things going on, when things are deeply stressful, yeah, there will always be good things also. I don't feel a lot of guilt about it. I feel worry, I feel concern, But I also, like, selfishly is maybe not quite the right word, but I also feel that if the only people who are having families right now are the people who don't care about, like, the climate and the economy and our political problems that are going on, if it's only those folks, and maybe this is painting with too broad of a brush, but what I have seen from those folks is that they have a tendency to raise very not particularly well-adjusted children that become even less well-adjusted adults. And it brings me a lot of hope as a new parent to go to the library and meet and chat with all these other parents, and it'll be folks who go to church, and I do not go to church, and they are still like, aren't judgmental about our family structure, don't care that our baby has a pink shirt and pants on. And it makes me feel better to know that this kind of like new era of parents are folks who care a lot and want their little boys to have all the opportunities to feel soft and also to feel strong and also to be beautiful and to do whatever and experience joy and cry. If every person who desperately wanted to be a parent waited until the perfect time and the perfect political, socioeconomic moment to have children, there would be like no children. I don't think there's a perfect answer. And I'm sorry. I wish I had a better one. I'm worried about it, but I don't feel guilty. I'm worried about it, but I don't feel bad. That's my real answer. What has been rewarding about being a dad that you didn't think about before? All of it. I'm someone who has a really hard time picturing what something is going to be like, especially when it's like a huge change. So really all of it. But right now, he's like flipping pages in board books, and with a baby, when you start reading to them, it just feels so silly because they are functionally like a little sludge that is on you, and you're like, look, we're reading together. I'm going to read you this book, and like, you don't understand a word I'm saying. And also, you can't even really see the pictures because your eyes haven't downloaded yet. So it's just this kind of like, so I would say right now, it's that he hands us books and flips the pages and is like so excited and like so locked in about it. That's been the most rewarding currently, but really anytime he learns to do anything new, super rewarding. What's a quality you hope the baby has from both/either of you? I hope that he has Morgan's sense of humor, for sure. Or a weird combination of the both of us. I think that'd be really fun. And I think that I hope. Did I say I think? I hope he has Morgan's sense of humor. And I hope that he has my ability to nurture. It is something that has made my life easier. That I can clean up, throw up, and be like a pretty like solid like person to talk to when someone's really upset, and like talk someone down from a panic attack and like those kinds of things. And that I have a lot of knowledge of like what things would help when someone's not feeling well for like headaches and like illnesses and other things like that. Yeah, my beautiful wife, who I love desperately, does not have that that quality quite so much. And so I hope he gets that for me, just because it's easier to be a person if you know how to do those things. Yeah, I hope he has Morgan's sense of humor and her ability to have fun. Anything challenging about being a parent that you weren't expecting? I was expecting all the normal things to be challenging. So like sleeping through the night and like constantly being damp or sticky and like, you know, that kind of stuff. I didn't realize how tense it would make me for particularly him as an infant to be held by other people. Held by Morgan doesn't stress me out at all. But being held by people who are not people that I've known for like 20 plus years it's just very specifically, it's hard. It's not really that I don't trust them. I guess it is that. I guess on some cellular level it is that, which is maybe mean of me. I don't know, but yeah, it's not as much anymore now that he is more able to express his own preference around things. He'll like lean towards people or like do whatever. So like, you know, if he's trying to get somebody to hold him, that's great. I had a much harder time with it when he was like a baby, and people would be like, "Can I hold the baby?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I guess. Sure, I guess you can. Why? Which doesn't make any sense. That is a feeling I had. I'm scared that kids will mean significant other and I won't have time for bonding. How do you connect? It will mean that, for sure. Particularly in like the newborn trenches. If you're ever a person who's been like in theater and a production, working on a musical or a play, it was just kind of like tech week for months. So there's kind of like a level of like intensity, but it's fun, but everything's silly because you're so sleep deprived. But so I think that was like we had a really lovely experience. And I think that both of us knew that if we are, you know, able to have another kiddo, the next time that these activities happened, they would be with a toddler also, which will be super fun to see, you know, our baby as an older sibling, but it'll be a different level of pressure on it because there's another tiny person to take care of with much stronger opinions. So yeah, I think we did a lot of like really like soaking up that time and just like loving it, even the parts that were very hard, because it's not easy by any means, and it's a huge change. And like now we are able to connect. We have more free time to hang out and talk with each other and talk about what happened during the day. When he's napping, we have shifted his bedtime, and this is gonna sound probably absolutely cuckoo bananas to people, but he falls asleep at around like 9:30. So we start bedtime at like 9 p.m. a little bit before that, maybe like 8:50 typically, because we watch an episode of Bear the Big Blue House at 8:30 every night. It's an incredible show and he loves it. It's his favorite. So anyway, with him having the much later bedtime, we've been watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives together, like an episode before bed. That's been great because he'll wake up crazy early. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. It does mean that it is a huge shift. For people who are like, I don't really know if I want to have kids because I'm afraid it's going to take over my life. I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling that way at all. But it does do that. And I wouldn't say in a negative way. I would say I'm experiencing so much joy, and there are so many things that like are really magical that were just kind of normal before. Is baby sleeping through the night? Are they ever? Is that possible? Yes, kind of. Through the definition, I would say yes. I would say not super consistently, and he's like got some teeth coming in. He's already got some teeth, which is great, but I think one of his molars is next. I would say fairly consistently. He's sleeping through the night as much as I expected he would be at a year. And he's definitely, there's like a chunk of like night where he's sleeping a solid like 6 hours, which is great. Morgan and I are both able to get like some sleep now, which is really good. And some nights he sleeps all the way through and doesn't get up. Yeah. Do you plan to take Gonzo to Disney? Eventually, for sure. Right now we have a couple of weird, we're calling them vacations, and they are technically vacations, but one of them is like a work thing that we're doing for an ad that we're filming for the Olympia Farmers Market, which I'm really excited about. And then we're going to go see Morgan's sister and her wife and their kiddos, which is super, super exciting and going to be really fun for them to hang out with the baby. After that, we have another sort of family-focused vacation that will be going on. So I don't think we're gonna have like money to go to Disney for a long time, a very long time. It's pretty high on Morgan's priority list to go to Disney with the baby. It's a little bit lower on mine. I wish the Walt Disney Company wasn't stressful. I wish everything was just like chill and cool, and that they weren't trying to get people to travel to Hawaii, and that they weren't trying to like, I don't know, just constantly be making money and like making everything expensive. I'm feeling annoyed by them. even more so than when I worked there, I think, particularly with all the things going on in the world. And yet it is like one of the safest like bets for your money in terms of if something stressful happens as a queer person or as a trans person, like they're gonna make it up to you for sure. So yeah, I don't know. Not anytime soon. Hopefully we'll take him before he costs money though, because it's like under 3, under 2. I think it's under 2. So I don't know if we'll be able to go. Also, he's tall, so I don't know. Are you a Miss Rachel house? No. We're very pro Miss Rachel. I think she's lovely. We don't do a lot of screen time. I think that the main reason that screen time is something people talk about so much currently, I think there's a moral panic around technology. I think that there is a lack of societal support and structures for parents, particularly for women, for moms, for people who are not the breadwinner of their family. And I think that also probably everybody should be less on a screen than they are currently. I don't think there's a way to fix it, and also I don't really care, and also it's not something we're trying to like hide from our baby per se. I'd love for him to, like, he's not gonna have an iPad. The way that we kind of like consider it is that we don't use like small screens, and he's never like on the internet. So typically what it is we watch like an episode of Bear in the Big Blue House every night before bed because he loves it and it's cute and like why not, and it's Muppets. I don't think that screen time rots kids' brains the way that people talk about it doing so. I don't think there's anything wrong with turning on Miss Rachel so that you can do the dishes or whatever, for a number of reasons. But yeah, no, it's not. Miss Rachel's not. We don't watch Miss Rachel. And I also don't think that anyone is better than anyone else for being a Miss Rachel house or for not being a Miss Rachel house. I do not think that there's some like moral upper ground to be on because your child is only like chewing on organic crayons and has never even seen a phone. And I think that in general, if your kid feels loved by you, everything else is going to come out in the wash. Like it's going to be fine. If your child feels loved by you and cared for and is in a safe place, I think it's going to be all right. Sorry, I feel like I have to like go on a tangent about like screens when people ask about screens because it's just so, it's like a whole thing. It's like a whole thing right now. We do follow a couple of like low screen activity like influencers, and I like to be inspired by some fun activities that they do for their kids, not because I think that like our kid's always going to do that instead of like watching a movie, but just that they're creative and they do some fun stuff. Are you going to homeschool the baby or do a more traditional school experience? In the comments, if you are someone who thought that we were going to homeschool, I would love for you to tell me why. And this is a judgment-free zone. I would just love to know what about us is giving that vibe. I'm curious if it's the like me being crafty or if it's like us being gay or if it's just that like folks know other queer people who homeschool or they know a lot of like content creators who do homeschooling. I'm just very curious. Big, huge fan of the public school system. Huge fan of the public school system. Fan is not the right word. Supporter, I suppose, is more what I mean to say. I cannot imagine a universe wherein our child is able to experience all of the diversity of thought and of authority figures and classmates and peers. Like, there's just so, like, let's say that the public school is not even great. It is still, I think, a really quintessential being a person activity to attend public school. I don't know that we have a strong enough social structure that our kid would be able to have like as many options for friends as public school offers. There's just all kinds of things. And I went to public school in Oregon, and I really, really enjoyed it. As like way too strong phrasing. I feel very positively about elementary school, and then less so about middle and high school, because middle school is a hellhole. It's the worst age to be. It's the worst experience to have, and then high school is just a lot. But yeah, I think that if our kiddo has literally anything that made public school especially difficult for him, any kind of like learning disability, any kind of anything, we would reassess. I don't think that homeschool is like a bad thing to do by any means. I think that for us, it makes the most sense to start off going to public school, being engaged in that, seeing what that looks like and whether our kid likes it, and giving him the option to do so. I also am just not built to be a teacher, particularly a teacher of one. I think that sometimes there is a narrative that's pushed that like every child, if they could just be taught by their parents. It's that weird influencer culture of like, for homeschool today, my kid did dishes and raked leaves. And it's like, yeah, they still have to learn math though. And like, I can't teach math. I really can't teach math. And I also think that there's a lot of, more than anything else, social enrichment to get from spending time with so many people who are different than you and grew up in different kinds of houses than you and are different authority figures than your parents, and different, I think that is invaluable, and an invaluable experience to have for particularly young kiddos, just to kind of like learn how to be a person, So crafts. Where do you get your crafting ideas? I don't know. I don't know. I've got no idea. My brain, other people's cool crafts, all kinds of things. Sometimes I'll go to Pinterest if I like have a vision for something specific, and then I'm like, maybe something similar to this exists and I can look at and see what other people are doing. Other content on the internet for sure. TikToks of people doing cool crafts and making cool things. Anything that's like fun and bright and obnoxious. I don't think there's anything wrong with seeing a craft that someone has done and being like, oh, I'm gonna make that. Like, that's cool, I'm gonna make that. So please know that I know that sometimes, especially with content creators, there's kind of this weird like the interior design girlies had a moment where they were like fighting because one of them was like painted like a squiggle wall and the other one was like, I put a squiggle on my wall and I think that you should go die, or like whatever. I don't think it's not like plagiarism. The only thing I've ever felt that way about is I did those really cute cookie punch needle coaster thingies, the like Halloween cookies, and what are they called? Pillsbury. I saw a bunch of like listings for like Etsy, like pillows and like coasters and things that I feel were after I had been selling mine, and I had like some go viral, like small viral, not big viral. And I was like, all right. So if you're going to like sell some things, sometimes that's really the only thing I've had an attitude about. Anything else anybody wants to do it. Make a very hungry caterpillar pennant. Make anything you want. I don't care. Anything. I'm making one of those silly giant bead creatures from pool noodles. That was a TikTok that I saw. For the pennants for the babies, anything for the nursery, just stuff that I saw on Pinterest. I don't think anything really specifically. I would say I'm also inspired by not wanting to pay for things. So like the clock that I made in there, that's like it's like a giant maxi swatch is what it's supposed to like kind of look like. That cost me like probably like $30 to make total, and it's not as cute as the $500 to $1,200 one, but it was only $30, and my baby does love it. Actually, he likes to smack on it. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything that was specifically. I'm working on a bug crown right now for his birthday. I saw a really sick like sea creature crown that somebody made out of felt that was really cute. I don't know who made the first like birthday felt crowns. But they're so cute. I think they're really fun. What other things am I working on right now? Oh, my absurd advent calendar that's made out of felt. I just think advent calendars are cute, and I wanted a reusable one, and they're stupid expensive, but I wanted one that we could like use every year. I'm sure there are other people who make a lot of weird stuff with felt. I don't see a lot of it. I feel like I make a lot of weird stuff with felt. If you see other people make stuff with felt, tag me in it. I'd love to see it. But the reason I work with it is because it is such a forgiving material, and you don't have to hem anything, and if you can hand sew even vaguely, you can make something out of felt. What's been your favorite craft so far? I would say, I don't know, probably still the Chicka Chicka Boom Boom pennant. I'm really proud of that one. The Goodnight Moon one. The pennants, I think. Also, the baby really likes them. We'll like walk him over to the wall and he'll like touch them, which is really cute. Yeah, those are probably my favorite. But the bug crown that I'm working on right now, it's gonna slay. It is gonna absolutely slay. So I'm excited about that. How did you get into crafting? I have a grandma who showed me how to hand sew when I was very, very young. I want to say like 5. And then my mom has ADHD, diagnosed and medicated now. Slay for Shelly. So she is a girly who got really into scrapbooking and then got really into... She had like a laminator. She's like always been a gadgets girly. Very, very gadgets focused. Right now she's in a sewing era. She has 6 different sewing machines, just her. And then Bo has one and Morgan has a sewing machine. And she has a serger. Maybe that's included in the sewing machines because she's got a heavy duty one for hats. Anyway, she gets a lot of joy out of that. So I think that it's kind of like in my bones, but also something that I've grown up like seeing happen. My grandma made really sick baby doll clothes for my American Girl doll. I had this like such a cool like little like jacket. This like really neat fabric. It was like sparkly kind of. It was like black with like iridescent kind of thread. And so yeah, as a kid, I remember being like 8 years old and I got a bin of like fleece and sewing supplies and a little tiny sewing machine for my grandma, and I ended up hand sewing, but I was selling like tube tops and tube dresses that I made for American Girl dolls to other people who had American Girl dolls at like I think like 8 or 9 years old. It was very fun. And yeah, I've just always been into making things with my hands. It feels satisfying, I guess. How do you not get sick of crafts and stop halfway? I do that all the time. You guys just don't see those. There are, right off the top of my head, the advent calendar is like 1/3 of the way done. I have a shirt that I was working on during my top surgery recovery that I was putting fabric paint on. I think that one will eventually get done. I'm putting like little stars on it. That has been literally put away since September or whatever. I have a unhinged baby project. I have a quilt that I started making for the baby that is still not done. That I even picked up again for the second time and it's still not done. There's a little mailbox for the baby that I've got. There's a bunch of things and ideas and thoughts and stuff that I meant to start that I haven't started yet. Yeah, I do that a lot, so don't ever feel bad. That's just part of, I think, being a person who likes to work on projects and then runs out of time and then gets excited about something else. So that's super common for me. I do usually finish them eventually, depending on what the project is. How do you organize your craft supplies? Like this, they look awful right now, truly terrible. The most recent issue we had is that Morgan reorganized the craft supplies and I'm the one who uses them for the most part, so I need to be the one who reorganizes them, but I hate organizing things. So I think it's gonna be a whole video similar to the like spring cleaning type videos, but it's gonna be me just like going through basically all of my craft supplies. Do you have a serger? Should I get one? I do not have one. My mom has one. She really likes it. Morgan has used it a couple times. I am deathly terrified of it. I tried to just thread it the other day and was like, I give up. So, but you should see if you have a library of things in your area, if your library has one, so you can borrow it to see if you like it, because our library has 2 sergers. So if you're in Salem, you do. What is a detailed project of tackling a craft you have little to no knowledge in? I love this question. It is such an interesting question. I think it depends on whatever it is that you're working on. I think a lot of people ask me questions and are like, oh my gosh, you're so talented at like sewing or at like embroidery or at like whatever. And if sewing is, I would say, a very base bit like a building block. It's like a gateway craft. If you can hand sew, you can do so much. So I would say if you are looking to get into crafting, get some pieces of felt and then make a weird little patch for your backpack or your purse or something silly. Sew that. Hand sew it, because it's not hard. It's like up and down if you're just doing like a little like regular stitch, you know? But specifically, tackling a craft you have little to no knowledge of. I did this with punch needle. I found out, because there's so many crafts are connected, right? So I was gifted one of those really cutesy kits for punch needle for my birthday. I think Morgan got it for me. It was like one of the ones that was on sale. I'll like link the person, like their social media stuff there. They're great. A kit like that, if it's something you literally don't have any knowledge of at all whatsoever, is great. Just so you can kind of like do it for the first time. But for punch needle specifically, really all you need is like the punch needle tool. It's like a needle. It's like hollow and kind of like wooden and metal. Yarn, that really big, wide cross-stitching fabric, the wider set one, and then an embroidery hoop. And that's really all you need, which if you don't do any of those crafts, it probably sounds like a lot of stuff that you need, but I already had most of those items, except for just the punch needle. And the punch needle, if you're just getting one of the like plain regular ones, I think it's like $5 or $6, maybe like $10 tops for like a snazzy nice one. But yeah, I do a lot of like watching videos of people do it, and then trying it a couple of times. If you have someone who you can talk to who knows how to do the craft that you're trying to get into, that's great. Embroidery is one actually that's also probably maybe even better than like patch making, because for felt patches you can't like wash them if you put them on something necessarily. But like if you want to like embroider a jean jacket, like put like your name on it or something cute, embroidery is a good one to get into, because embroidery floss is pretty cheap and then needles are pretty cheap, and you might already have some needles at your house. Talk to people who already do that craft if you can. Also look it up online or take a class. I know that Sunny's house does like zine making classes that are really cool. I think they've done block printing classes before, at least once, if not something that's like ongoing. Living in a multi-generational home. Have you and your family always been close? Did that change at all in adulthood? My parents have always been well-meaning and kind. I think that similar to many parents who were raising children during the 2008 recession, there have certainly been like times of stress in our house. Like it wasn't like a perfect childhood. And I don't say this to rag on my parents, who I think are great. I say this because I think sometimes people look at mine and my parents' relationship and they think like, oh wow, they must have never done anything wrong and like never yelled at you or never like spanked you or never whatever. And I think what my parents were doing was the best they could at the time with the information they had and the skills that they had acquired as people who started having children at 22 years old. They're great. I think I had some rage as a child because I was queer and trans and didn't have the words to express that, and it wasn't my parents' fault at all. They're very supportive. They're great. But I think that because there weren't examples of what things could look like for me, I had a really hard time being confident in myself and figuring out what things that I could do to make myself feel like a person, as opposed to just someone who is trying so hard to be a person and failing so miserably. Which probably also is like a neurodiverse also thing. So my my mom has diagnosed ADHD. My dad has undiagnosed autism, we're fairly certain. And I probably have both. No idea. Doesn't super matter because currently where I'm at, there's not anything that would help or hinder me by having a diagnosis, and it would just be like a lot to try to get. But definitely not normal brain. I think that's also part of it, is that it was hard to articulate things that I needed as a kid as well. And then as a teenager, yeah, I was just really so bad. It's so bad to be a teenager. So bad to be a trans teenager. Oh my God. My 10-year high school reunion is this year. I would rather chew glass than attend that. I'd have to be like, hey, it's Felix now. That just is awful. I can't imagine doing that. It's terrible. Yeah, I've always had a pretty solid relationship with my parents, and I think as an adult now I get to see my parents be grandparents, which is very, very cool. And I think that we have a mutual respect and understanding. I really like that we all live together. We originally, when Morgan and I lived in Florida and were planning to stay in Florida, we had the plan that my parents were going to keep living in their house that was small and not cute, and that they were going to buy essentially like a vacation home in Florida that we would rent from them. That way they could come visit us and have like a for sure place to stay, and we would just kind of like co-own that house. And then the pandemic happened and we ended up moving across the country and lived in an apartment for a couple of years. And then my parents were like, we're gonna move, we hate our house. And we were like, what if we all moved in together, like on purpose? What do you think about that? And yeah, they were into it, we were into it. My brother also lives here. My younger brother, they don't want to live here long term. Not that there's any, but they just are excited. They haven't like moved out on their own, so they're excited to do that. And then I have another brother who also doesn't live in this house with us. Did you always want to all live together, or was it a perfect storm of events? Since I was a child, I've not always wanted to live with my parents. I don't think it was really something that we considered until my parents were moving out of my childhood home. They were looking at houses and trying to figure out what would work well for them. And I think that Morgan and I knew that we were never going to be able to afford a house just because of how the economy is. And like, how great would it be if our baby could grow up in a house with his grandparents, for everybody, really. That's just like a win-win-win-win. Yeah, so kind of a perfect storm of events. And yeah, we just didn't, I don't know. We were kind of sick of being in our apartment, really sick of renting specifically. Now we pay my parents rent, but it's just like a portion of the mortgage. And if we didn't do that, I don't think we'd be able to be full-time content creators. If we were still renting as opposed to paying my parents, because there's some flexibility there in terms of like, we pay half on the 1st and half on the 15th, unless we've gotten a brand deal and are good to like pay it all on the 1st. But if we'd definitely pay late. Not always. We've gotten into a cycle where we're actually paying like on time recently, which has been great. But yeah, it's not always that way. And so there's some flexibility and some kind of, there's like a safety net there that if we didn't have that, I don't think we'd be able to do content full time. Do you plan on living in a multi-generational home the rest of your lives? Yeah, that's the dream. That's the hope. People are always like, when are you guys going to move out? And it's like, oh no, like we live here. Part of it that helps is that we are in 2 different sections. So this house is a weird house. And before we lived here, it was an older couple living in the section that we live in, and then like the younger family living upstairs, but they're like a very established younger family. So it was like the grandparents essentially living down here, and they were like, I don't know, old, like 80 something maybe, I don't know. And then the parents are like 40s living upstairs with their like almost adult children. Maybe older than that, maybe the same age as my parents, but my parents just started having kids younger. Doesn't matter. This is a great house. It is so nice. The like way that we can share resources. Yeah, I don't know. Morgan specifically is someone who is very like, okay, and now we have to do a yard day. Okay, and now we have to clean out the garage. And I think that my parents and I, that's not our strong suit. Our strong, yeah, to be like, let's go. Let's get going. Let's do this big task that's gonna be fine, but it's hard to like feel motivated to go. So Morgan helps a little bit in that respect. And then the other thing, Morgan has always, as long as I've known her, had depression. And there have been times like we've had roommates. And then we didn't have roommates anymore, and we were living, on our own in an apartment, and then we were going through fertility stuff. And so there were a couple of times when Morgan, like, came to see me at work because she was like, I can't be alone at the house right now. Like, I can't do that. And so I think it's good for her to have roommates, and, like, good for us all of us really, for different reasons, to have other adults to lean on to make dinner or go grocery shopping or do whatever. It's like a communal situation that works really well. We're super, super lucky to have it. How do you navigate boundaries? We live in two separate sections of the house, so that I think solves a lot of problems. It would be significantly harder if we didn't essentially have like a front door. But also the houses, like our house functions as like two separate households. And it's so obvious when other people don't see it that way. There are areas that are considered more like communal areas, and then there are areas that are like not communal. Like I'm never in Beau's bedroom. I'll like walk through my parents' bedroom if somebody else is in Beau's bathroom for me to use their bathroom. But like Beau's bathroom is Beau's bathroom. My dad has an office. We don't go in my dad's office unless we're getting the vacuum, but even then we ask. And then my parents, they like knock if they come to our house, or text and are like, hey, can we come through to use the elevator, or do you guys want to do XYZ, you know? So yeah, it's I think we're just pretty good at talking through things, and anytime there's been an issue, it's usually just because there was a lack of communication around something or a lack of understanding, and so then you just talk through it and you're like, oh my god, I didn't realize you meant XYZ, or I didn't realize that this was bothering you, or whatever, right? Time has passed. Sorry about that. Now it's night, so the light, she's not as good, but here we are. This section is content creation. How did you know content creation was a good career choice for you? Didn't. Similar to many of the other answers. Did not know that. Didn't know it was going to be lucrative is really not the right word, but I guess functional, possible. I would say I think something about content creation or being an influencer, whatever you want to call it, is that there are folks who really want to be influencers, and they're like, how can I make this happen so that I can not be doing my day job anymore? I think for some folks that's possible to do. I don't think generally it is common, and it's not what we did. So, Morgan and I have been posting content on the internet since like 2020. We didn't start getting paid a little until like 2021. We didn't start getting paid regularly until probably like 2022. And then in 23, I think Morgan quit her day job. And then in 24, I think is when I quit my day job. It is not the best paying gig. It's complicated because there have been times within content creation where I've been like, oh, one of us is gonna have to stop doing this so that we can afford to live. But it is something that takes so much time and effort and energy that you like kind of have to have at least two people doing it in terms of like editing and everything. Like for instance, in 2023, we made $70,000 together, the two of us. And that's before taxes, and then we owed like $8,000 in taxes. And then in 2024, we made $50,000, and we only owed $2,000 in taxes, which is, it's great. That had to do with like our tax status changing because of, having a dependent, and then also the child tax credit. So, the amount of money is not the only thing. It's also, that's not like our that's like our total income. That is not including everything that we like wrote off, which means that the number that we technically claimed on our taxes was much lower than $50,000. Does that make sense? Because anything that we use for our business or that we film or that we do whatever, you can write off on your taxes, which does not mean that like if you spend $500 on something, you don't owe $500 in taxes. It means that you do not owe taxes on that $500 that you made, if I understand correctly, which maybe I don't. Also, maybe I have no idea. So the way that our job is currently, our whole family is on Oregon Health Plan. We qualify for it monetarily, one, and then two, because our income is not consistent. So when we get money from ads, which is like a much bigger influx of money, those are, we don't know when that next one is going to come. from what I understand in Oregon, to be on Oregon Health Plan, which again is Medicaid, and I don't want to spread misinformation, but this is what someone told me, and I don't know if it's even Googleable, but basically the folks at Planned Parenthood said that like realtors who make a bunch of money are also on OHP, because they don't have like a set monthly income. We do have a set monthly income on Patreon, and I mean, like, we now get money from like YouTube, but it's not enough that it would take us above the threshold for Oregon Health Plan currently. So if we were to one of us try to go back to work right now, that wouldn't work because we would have to get childcare, and then the price of childcare would be not worth it. If we were to both go back to work and also pay for childcare, then we could do that. But even then, we would be getting, not Oregon Health Plan, not Medicaid. So some other, I don't know if private health insurance is the right word, but like, health insurance like through your job. And I don't know how many of you guys, I don't know what everyone's experience is with healthcare through your job, but even when we were on like the good healthcare when we both worked at the same office job, it was not good. When we had our pregnancy loss, we went into medical debt like immediately. And then also Morgan just has a bunch of like her medical history is incredibly spotty because her parents are not good parents, among other things. And so we're much more likely to take Morgan to the emergency room for something that we wouldn't necessarily take me to the emergency room about, because it's like we don't have all of Morgan's information about everything that's going on, and she has health problems that have gone like not diagnosed or not dealt with for like many, many years. So it's more likely that like it is not a life or death situation, but a potentially very hazardous situation. So it's better for her to just go to the ER. And ER visits are like cuckoo bananas, like so insanely expensive, no matter who you have for insurance, unless you have Oregon Health Plan, and then they're free, which is amazing. So at this point, we are making enough money to live. We really, really like our job is the other thing. We are able to spend a lot of time with our baby. We're not worried about healthcare, which is great. Potentially we could be making more money if we were to both go back to work, but even then we wouldn't actually be making more money because healthcare is so expensive. Just that you pay into it monthly, not even if you actually have to go get something done and pay for that. Yeah, and the way that we ended up switching into full-time content creation is because we were both, this is like not cute, but I think probably people will relate to this, maybe or maybe not. Our office job that we worked, I feel like it started off and it wasn't soul sucking. It was like fine. It was like not bad. And it's not a terrible place to work by any means. It's like a place that I say like, hey, if you need a job that like pays pretty well, you should go work here. Part of what happened was we experienced a pregnancy loss, and then like the grief from that and the monotony of this job and the like, it was just so bad. Like my mental health has never been worse, but it was really, really, really bad. So I just I could not bring myself to go. Both of us came to a point where like, it was a fairly good paying job, but we weren't going to work often enough that it was, actually paying well. I was like, monetarily, if I just quit, because Morgan had already quit to pursue content creation full time. And then it was me who was kind of like our like consistent money coming in. And then I was like, I literally am going so infrequently that if I quit, I will have the potential to make more than working here, or at least break even by us really investing in like stream and YouTube and other things. So none of it's been a for sure thing. And that's the thing about content creation, is it is so unstable and it really has to do with the economy. And also like, I don't think it's a positive, it's not like a good sign of like a healthy societal system, that like there are some people who can do this job where they are making content, making things for people to watch, and then brands occasionally intermittently pay them like thousands of dollars, and then like that's not, I would rather, I don't know. I really like making content. I think if we had all of the money in the world, I would still make content. But I think if I could have like literally any job that I wanted, I would be making something. I really, really, really at some point want to have a free children's clothing store where people can just like come in and take whatever they want and bring whatever they want. If money were no object, like that's what I would do for sure. What a long-winded always way of me to say anything. So sorry. But we didn't know content creation was a good career choice. I didn't know content creation was a good career choice for us. And in fact, I still don't know that. In the past year, we've definitely very seriously talked about maybe not doing it anymore. We got a manager recently, who is lovely. Paige is awesome. And so now we, part of our like brand deal, like the percentage of the brand deals that we make, like, you know, of the payments, they go to Paige, who's lovely. But we get more brand deals and higher paying brand deals than we did previously. And I think I was so resistant to us getting a manager for so long because I was like, no, like I can just do that job because there's two of us. And with a baby, it's just way too much to keep track of because it's already too much to keep track of. And then also like emailing people back and forth and like reaching out to brands and like doing like, it's so much. And on top of that, I think that like as brand deals get fewer and farther between, they're less likely to converse directly with content creators and they're more likely to talk to them through some other like third party person, as well as like talent agencies, like folks who are like, it's like Grail Talent is the one that we're with, but like they have contacts that other people don't have, so they you know. So for the foreseeable future, we will be doing this. I don't know that it's always going to be that way. I don't know, you know. I just don't really know what the future looks like, and that's one of the stressful things about this job. Also, brands pay late. There's a lot of things to it. It's not a perfect job. We do really, really like it, and I feel like the benefits make up for the negatives. I would never suggest this as a career choice for anyone, ever. Unless they were, like, independently wealthy. Yeah, it's a lot. And again, part of the reason that we are so, like, we have a level of flexibility because we have my parents and we live with them. So I'm curious what makes streaming / being perceived in real time challenging. And this is someone who was talking about how they miss stream and how often stream used to be. It is, for example, right now in this YouTube video, I've been recording for like 5 hours. That's not true. Probably like 3 or 4. It's been in a couple different chunks, so I can't tell you exactly. And I've taken a lot of time to think about what I'm going to say. And I've had a lot of like awkward pauses and like my stomach's growling and like, you know what I mean? Things that like don't really matter and you can edit out and you can change. And then being perceived in real time, especially when the world has everything going on that it has going on, it's just, I feel a lot more emotionally draining. I like being live. I like chatting with folks. It's not that it's not a fun time. It's just that it is a lot of thinking about what my face is doing and a lot of thinking about what words exactly I want to say specifically. So I'm the one who's come back to streaming on Sundays to do Stardew Valley Church. Sturch, some have called it. It's been fun. It's been cute. And Morgan used to stream like most days, and then kind of like towards the middle endish of the pregnancy, she stopped as much and then went on maternity leave and then came back and then she stopped streaming again. I don't remember. With how stressful the world feels right now, it's like carrying all of that, and also being a parent and being emotionally drained and not getting as much sleep and like all of those things, and then also interacting with folks who are asking questions, who are saying things. And it's not that it's like unpleasant. It takes a lot of energy. And like it's it's like, you know, when you're a barista and you are your customer service self at work, and that doesn't mean that you're not a lovely person or someone who cares that other people are happy and wants them to be doing well, but like it just is a little bit different, and it's like you have to think about it. It's like that, but instead of a bunch of strangers, it's a bunch of people who have a vested interest in the things that you're doing and who look up to you and who probably have very similar values to you, but sometimes misunderstand the things that you say, or they place higher priority in certain values other than you do. So then you're kind of like put on this pedestal, and then you disappoint people without realizing it, or without realizing that's what's going to happen when you say something. It's a weird job. And if there were more hours in the day, I think we would be streaming more. And if we were always sleeping through the night, then I think we'd be streaming more. But right now, I think once a week is like as much as as I'm going to be able to do. And I don't think Morgan will be coming back for a bit. Have you ever forgotten your child's real name, as in like called him Gonzo? So funny. No, we don't call him, he has a couple of nicknames, but no, no, we don't call him like Grasshopper or Garbage Bin or Garage Door or Ganondorf or none of those things. He doesn't get called any of those. Those are part of the shield of protection of the baby that we have put over the baby from the internet. More than anything else, I accidentally say his name while we're like filming something or doing something else, which is the other reason that I am worried about being perceived live, because I have to be really careful what things I am and am not saying about the baby and his name and other stuff. Like I have to like, you know, because you can't, if you slip and say his name, then a bunch of people know his name, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but I don't want that to happen. And also, when we film something for long form for YouTube or short form for Reels and Shorts and TikTok, like it has gone through at least the same person's eyeballs twice, if not both pairs of our eyeballs more than twice. So we've always co-signed on like every sentence, every whatever has been said. And it's not exactly like having a sensitivity reader, but it is like having your coworker be like, no, I think that's fine. I think that represents us. I think whatever. So particularly when people are asking questions live and things about like the baby, maybe I think it would be fine to say, oh, the baby did XYZ yesterday, but that's not something that Morgan thinks would be cool to share. And I'm like, oh, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. That's not ever happened specifically like in that context, but no, sorry, I've never forgotten his name. No. The one thing that happens is that I will say like the baby, like I do that a lot more in real life than I think I would if we didn't have this job. I'll be like, oh, it's in the baby's room, as opposed to being like, oh, it's in blank's room, because I try to like not like super get into the habit of saying his name just like flippantly, but I do obviously call him his name probably more than anything else. But yeah, he has nicknames that none of them start with G. That's not true. Most of them don't start with G. Lore. This is the lore section. This one says, any Felix 420 stories. Yes, I'm sober. Substance abuse runs in my family, and so especially since my baby being here, I'm just not interested. I don't want to do anything about that. I'm sober. And it's fine that other people aren't. Morgan is also. Yeah, my hope and my dream is for my child to have a positive or non-existent relationship with drugs and alcohol, but specifically when it comes to the devil's lettuce. I've taken CBD gummies before to have my head not hurt as much, and I still do that every once in a while, especially if I have like this like shoulder tenseness. Maybe it's just a placebo effect, I don't know. But before I was doing the like high level CBD gummies, I was taking the other kind of gummies just a little bit, and this is when I worked at my office job. I came home from work and I had a migraine, and Morgan, this is when Morgan was also, she wasn't working at that job anymore. She was like, here doing content creation stuff. And so I came home from work, went upstairs to my dad, was like, hey, my head hurts so bad. Can I have like whatever or something? I thought that I was taking slightly more than I normally took for this kind of gummy. And Oregon had actually just changed the like percentage of product, like the milligrams amount that could be in a container. And so this had instead a little more than twice as much what I was used to taking. So I had my little fruit snack, came downstairs, fell asleep. I am just in my underwear, have my like hot blanket on, my like cold hat, my like everything. I wake up not doing well. Morgan is doing laundry in the living room, and I like threw a shirt on and I'm like on the verge of tears, and I'm like, I have to go to the hospital right now. I'm dying. Something's wrong. This is not okay. I'm not all right. And it's really funny now, but it's like the most recent like true panic attack that I've had, and it's the only one I've ever had, because I had a panic attack disorder in college, but this is the only one I've ever had that was like induced by something else. So bad. And it's really funny in retrospect, but I'm like distraught, and so Morgan's like, no, what's going on, what happened, because she literally didn't know that I'd taken anything, so she just thought I was having a panic attack. My dad was working from home, so he's in his office and was having a meeting. Morgan helped me put pants on, and then we go up the stairs, and I'm like hyperventilating, and like I don't even remember how I got up the stairs. And then I remember seeing my dad's face and being like, I have to go to the hospital. We have to call an ambulance. I need help right now. Something's wrong. And him very quickly figuring out what he was doing at work. And the next thing I remember, I'm on the couch holding like a bag of frozen French fries and taking like deep breaths. My dad is like, Felix, do you remember what happened? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you took medicine. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, I think you had too much. And I was like, I'm dying. And he's like, I don't think you're dying. And I said, it's like everything's like those 3D glasses, and I can't get my lungs to line up so that I can breathe correctly, like the blue and like the red. I remember this very distinctly, and then I'm like trying to breathe and like so stressed out, and he like, Morgan gets me water, and like my dad's chatting with me. I was like, we have to call an ambulance, and then he was like, we're not gonna call an ambulance, you're fine. And I was like, I'm not fine. And he's like, I was like, what if I'm in the ambulance right now? And he's like, if that's true, then you're exactly where you need to be. And I was like, but I'm not, I'm here. We have to call an ambulance. And he's like, okay, everything's fine. I was telling him that it was so scary because I kept on, like, as we were like having the same conversation, I would forget what we were talking about and then not remember why I felt so bad. And then I would remember again and be fine for a couple of seconds. And then I would be like, as we're talking, forget that that's what's going on, and it was just because I was so inebriated. It was terrible. It was so bad. That's the only like fun story that I have. The rest of the time, I don't think I've ever like gotten, that's certainly the most I've ever had. I think it was like 5 milligrams. No, I think I thought it was 5 milligrams and it was 10 milligrams, because I would usually have like 3/4 or like a half of one. It was so bad. It was not good. Are you originally from Oregon? Yes. Unfortunately, I am from South Albany. Went to South Albany High School. Yeah. Albany is I would say like magenta-y. Or it was when I was growing up there. Definitely more conservative leaning. Our really good friend Lydia put it really well. She said that there are a lot of people in Oregon like to cosplay like they're Southern. So true. So true. There's a lot more Confederate flags in certain places in Oregon than there are in a lot of places in Alabama, at least in like the like urban places in Alabama. Urban big cities, I guess is what I mean. I don't know if that. Yes, Oregon, born and raised. But it is funny because, you know, a few years ago, I lived in Florida for a couple of years. And so I'll, like, talk about having lived in Florida. And people are like, you're from Florida? I'm like, oh, my God, no, I'm from here. Definitely from here. Did you have depression as a child? When were you diagnosed and started treatment? I have not depression specifically, but I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder when I think I was like 14 or 15. That came about because I had 2 panic attacks at school in the same week. It had to be, like, my parents, who both worked in Corvallis at the time, which is like a town like 15 minutes away, they had to drive to pick me up from school and then take me to the hospital because I was like, I'm dying right now. If you've never had a panic attack, they're bad. They're just really scary. It's just like this feeling of like pure terror, and then because you have so much adrenaline in your body that your own body has put there because it's perceiving something scary that's not actually happening, it like does a bunch of weird things to the rest of your to all of your body systems. And so things that it's hard to calm down from it, especially if you don't know what's happening. Yeah, I would like have a panic attack. I would like wake up in the night and be like hyperventilating, and then try to like go to the bathroom, and then like run to the bathroom, and then like my hearing would like go out, and then I would like it would get like black as if I was gonna like pass out. And it was just probably because my brain wasn't getting enough oxygen because I was hyperventilating. But anyway, it's kind of like not funny but sort of funny story. I like got my parents because again I thought I was dying. I told my dad that I was pooping because I literally thought I was pooping my pants in the hallway because that was what it felt like was happening to me. So he helped me like get to the toilet, which I'm not somebody who's just gonna like pull my pants down in front of a family member ever comfortably, but I was really, really not doing well. And anyway, I wasn't pooping, but I really thought that I was. It's bizarre. Like, it's a very bizarre feeling in your body. And it's like this like lack of feeling grounded. Yeah, I don't know. It's just scary and bad. I haven't had a real panic attack in a super long time, but I had them pretty bad in the early part of high school. And then I don't think I got on antidepressants for my anxiety until I was in early college, and had a much better therapist at that time. I saw a therapist for a little bit of time. It was a girlie who went to BYU, which is like not a crime, but like she had a lot going on. Not a good therapist, separately from being from BYU. But and then in early college I had like a similar thing going on, but it was like way worse. I definitely had a panic attack disorder in early college, and it was like closer to agoraphobia, which I had only ever heard people describe as like being afraid to leave your house, like when you see in like movies and like cartoons, it's somebody who's like, oh, I can't leave. And then I heard somebody describe it as like you are afraid of what will happen if you leave your house in terms of like specific things. So like I was terrified that I would have a panic attack while I was in like an enclosed space that I couldn't get out of, and then because I was having such a bad panic attack I would die. Yeah, which sounds funny, but at the time it was very real. And it also was part of the reason why it took me so long to get my license, because my anxiety was so bad and my panic attacks were so bad that I was like, I'm gonna have a panic attack while I'm driving and then crash the car and kill so many people. Like something terrible is gonna happen. And with driving specifically, it just took a lot of getting used to the feeling of being uncomfortable, and that was really what helped with the panic attacks as well as like talk therapy and other things. But like recognizing like the beginning part of a panic attack, and that if you just let it take you, and if you don't know what it is and you just get scared by it, it just amplifies it very quickly. What was your experience like at Disney? I did the Disney College program twice. The first time I met Morgan and I lived in a dorm with other trans folks, and it was fine. I worked at the Boardwalk Bakery and Ample Hills Creamery, may she rest in peace. It was okay. The most stressful part of that experience was Disney at the time had like gendered costumes, and their rule was that you could wear whatever gender costume you're comfortable with, but you just had to like fall within like the Disney look guidelines for that gender. So it was a gender neutral costume at the bakery, and then the ice cream place, it wasn't. It was like male or female, and so I wore the male costume, and I got in trouble from one of my leaders who was a little bit homophobic, but mostly just like genuinely didn't know the rules and was very like old school Disney, which isn't okay. But it was a lot. And so having to kind of like push back and like fight for my right to wear my stupid little green shirt sucked. So stressful. And also just like became this big thing. And it was particularly difficult because the reason why I was being like targeted's not the right word, but the reason that I was like getting in trouble for it, and that it was because I was just like passing as a cis woman. But I had short hair and I didn't wear makeup and I wore a binder, and there was nothing, like my little Minnie Mouse voice and my boobs and the way that I held myself, like nothing, they were never gonna see me as anything other than like a woman. And so it was so frustrating because it was me having these conversations with this manager. She was a leader, but a manager. And being like, why have you decided that like I'm a woman? She's like, well, you are, like, if you want to wear the male costume, you have to like, you have to get like gender reassignment surgery. And I was like, that's one, not true. I know a bunch of trans people who work here, and two, like, ridiculous. You clearly have no understanding. It was just so much. So it became a lot of advocating for myself, and that's hard to do when you are freshly 21 and have only been using they them pronouns for like 3 months. I was like a baby trans. It was hard. So there's that. Morgan and I met, ended up getting together. I thought she had a crush on my roommate because she kept on being in my apartment. Not my roommate that she had a crush on. It was me. And yeah, we ended up dating 2 months before I was going to go home and she was going to stay in Florida. And so we were like, do we do long distance? Like, is that what we do? Like, would that be fine? And we both kind of just decided, like, screw it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? We're never going to see each other again. If we decide not to ever see each other again, we're going to be like 3,000 miles away from each other. So we always say it was like the least financially responsible decision either of us have ever made, was to start dating, because we just basically like spent all of our money, like saved up all of our money and then spent it all on visiting each other every other like 2 or 3 months. It was wild. It was fun. It was very like early 20s behavior. Not a crime, but yeah. And it's just really funny because my parents, who, love Morgan and live in the same house as her now, I remember like my dad sitting me down and being like, are you kind of like using this as a way to escape your real life? Like, are you sort of like, you can't just constantly be going on vacation and like, spending time with this girl who like you don't even really like know her that well, was kind of like the energy. He didn't say it that snotty. It was much nicer than that. I have a really good dad. He wasn't being shitty, but I remember being like 22 years old, and I was like, it does not feel like I'm running away from anything. It feels like I am investing in my future. And I was right. So there's that. Also, we had only been dating for like a year and a half when I bought the engagement ring. So, they had reason to think that I was cuckoo bananas. Morgan's also the first woman that I've ever dated. And I was the first like non-man that she ever dated who identified as not a man. So we were each other's first like legitimate queer relationship, which is also generally a very red flag for like choosing to be with someone. Sometimes it works out. It's like sometimes you see high school sweethearts, and you're like, ooh, but sometimes it's fine. Oh my God, sorry. We were long distance. I came back, did my second college program, which is when I worked at Epcot Main Entrance. And then I got hired after my college program to just the only part-time job that was available, and I ended up as custodial for the ESPN Wide World of Sports. 2 of not my favorite things ever. I think I would have been fine custodial like anywhere else, but it was just really bad at the sports place. It's not where I wanted to be. And then I just kept on picking up park greeter stuff, and then I got hired. I can't remember if it was full-time. I think it was full. Oh no, yes, I was full-time ESPN custodial, and then I got moved to full-time park greeter as a shift. What's it called? Not shift leader, coordinator, which I had been trained as a coordinator while on my college program. It was a whole thing. Yes, and so total working at Disney World, like 6 months plus a year and a half, I want to say. And 4 months of that was COVID quarantine, where we were on Florida unemployment, which was terrible because also we were furloughed from the Walt Disney Company and nobody would hire you once Disney started laying people off, because they were like, you're just going to get hired back very quickly. I worked at Epcot Main Entrance and like the park greeters. I was a supervisor there basically. And then also at the International Gateway, which is right by the Boardwalk Bakery and Ample Hills Creamery. May she rest in peace. It's like the little crossy over place with like the Skyliner in the back. It's cute. And I really liked it. It was my favorite job I'd ever worked until it became so stressful because as like the park entrance folks, particularly as a supervisor, it was my job to, I was like the person that the angry guests were yelling at when they didn't want to wear a mask as we were reopening for like post-COVID. Was like the energy when Disney had rules about like masks and they had like social distancing and they put up all the like plexiglass. It was a very, very strange time. Very, very weird time to be working there. Yeah, and previously to that, like before COVID started, I got on the bench. Like I got an interview for guest relations and then I was on the bench. So I would have eventually been called to be in guest relations, which is where Morgan was, which is like, it's like hard to get and it's like a big deal. And it's like, I don't know. I really wanted to wear plaid. Like I wanted to like be guest, like I would have done a great job. And it's just our lives took a very different path. And here we are. Were you and Morgan long distance? Yes, we were long distance for, I think, 1.5 years. Is that right? We have a lot of scrapbooks from that time period. I should just go through them. They're really cute. But yeah, we were definitely long distance. It was not awful. I think it kind of like made us be very independent and then also be really honest with each other, because if you're going to be dishonest and also live 3,000 miles away, then like why are we even doing this? Like what's the point? So we kind of like quickly had to trust each other and also be like, all right, I mean, you may as well do this whole ass or break up. Like, what are we gonna do? We had one of those apps with like a calendar app that we shared. We had like FaceTime dates that we did. We would like watch movies together. We sent each other a lot of care packages. It was very cute, very romantic. And I was living with my parents at my childhood home and going to community college. And Morgan was working at Disney World. How do you feel about Morgan's family? I know that you're asking about the sucky ones. I want to be really clear and say Morgan has a lot of like genuinely very lovely family. Genuinely very lovely family. Her brothers are great. Her sister-in-law is wonderful. Her sister and her sister's family, which is her wife and the twins, amazing. Like lovely folks. So great. I don't know how much of this is going to be kept in. I was raised by parents who didn't always know what they were doing and started having kids pretty young and got married pretty quickly. And there are certainly many things that I plan to do differently from what my parents did in raising me and my brothers. I would not say that I have ever felt that my parents were mean-spirited or unsupportive of me, or I no matter what my parents have done, I've always known that they care about my feelings and they care about my self-expression, and that there's not been anything put on me of like what I should do, like what I'm supposed to do as an adult or as someone getting a job or whatever. It's kind of like my parents been very like wanting to support me in whatever my goals are, but they haven't like created goals for me. Morgan did not have that experience. I think that Morgan was raised by two people who their idea of what life is supposed to be like seems, from an outsider's perspective, to have very little to do with joy and love and care, and more to do with respect. And they're very, very religious, for one. Their values center around like, you have to do X to be deserving of Y. And my parents, I think, would say that everyone's deserving, certainly their own children. I cannot fathom not just like loving my kid. Like the easiest thing in the entire world is loving my son. And I know that right now he's not able to voice a lot of opinions on things that he would like to do or stuff that he's into. But I'm really excited for him too, and I'm excited for him to introduce me to new things and for me to show him things that I'm into, and for us to, for our relationship to grow and become more complex, and for me to learn what kind of, what even more about his personality than I already know. I think that Morgan's parents had a vision of what they thought that their daughter was going to be. And I don't think that anyone is set up to be what their parents wanted when their parents have a specific vision. And I think it is particularly hard to watch someone that I love so much be continually disrespected and treated unkindly by the people who are supposed to, who their job is just to love her. So I don't have many positive feelings or things to say about Morgan's parents. Basically the rest of her family that we are in contact with are genuinely very lovely. And it just isn't fair. And then additionally, we have this beautiful baby, who is the coolest person either of us have ever known, and Morgan grew him. That's crazy. That's the coolest thing. And I don't think that people who did such a piss poor job of, and continue to do such a piss poor job of showing someone that they love them, I don't think those people get an opportunity to show that they can do something else. Because, I have a really hard time being understanding of where they could possibly be coming from. I come from a position of privilege because my parents like me, and I know that Morgan's parents, their parents, weren't necessarily, they didn't receive that care from them. And I think in general, probably everybody is just breaking cycles in whatever way they are able to. But I have a hard time. That's what I have for you folks. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for listening to me talk so much for so long. If you're still here, wow, sorry. But also thank you. If you like this video, we would love for you to like and subscribe. You don't have to. But it does help a lot. That'd be great if you felt like it. I'm so glad you're here. If your parents are mean to you, I will kick them in the shins. I will personally walk to their home and kick them in the shins. And now, bloops. I'm certain that there will be plenty. If they have any questions for me, since Morgan had a very well-received lore video. So these are the things that y'all were curious about. I've got them in sections. So great question. Great question. Great question. This is driving Daddy crazy. My camera overheated for filming for too long because I don't shut up.